with me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to another installment of Louie T Live. Football is back. And I must say, seems like this offseason's been a little bit longer than most. And I know it's the Hall of Fame game, and I'm not going to keep you here very long. I'm not going to turn this into something major because it's the Hall of Fame game. I mean, let's keep it real. It's the Hall of Fame game. But all this essentially is a video to announce football's return. And from this point forward, there will not be another week for the next 9 months without some form of football. And it feels pretty damn good to be able to say that. And I know some of you are saying, damn, Louie T, I know you've been away for a while, but damn, is your math off? No, okay? If you've been listening to my podcast, and you should be, it's in the description of this video. If you're not checking out the Louie T Network podcast, shame on you. But as I mentioned on the podcast, there's a new football league coming out in February, right after the NFL season reaches its completion after the Super Bowl. The AAF will jump in. The American Alliance of Football will jump in, and we'll see what that league's all about. So for the next 6 months, NFL action, and then the next 3 months thereafter, AAF action. So you can check that out if you like. But man, is it good to see football on the television screen once again. I've got a couple of quick takeaways from this game, and then we'll get out of here. Like I said, I don't want to keep you here very long, but Ravens win the football game 17-16 over the Bears. It's actually not that bad of a watch. I'm a nerd, so I watched the whole game. Shame on me, but they did this to us. They set us up really nice. Normally, in the second half of the Hall of Fame, or hell, any preseason game, if you're not a fan of those teams playing, you can pretty much turn it off. And I don't care what preseason game it is. Third preseason game of the season, which we know usually the third game is the dress rehearsal. You can even turn the second half of that game off if it's not your favorite team, because who cares about the guys that are playing in the second half of that game for the most part. Hall of Fame game is even worse because the guys playing in the second half generally aren't going to be in a league, most likely. Probably 80% of those guys aren't going to be on those particular teams that they're playing for. However, they left Lamar Jackson for last. So we had to stick around in the second half of this game. And we'll get to him a little bit later on. But let's start at the top of this game. And I want to start with a couple of former first-round wide receivers. Breshad Perriman. Look, this is how I feel about Breshad Perriman. At this point, if I'm the Baltimore Ravens, with all the picks that you spent on receivers, all the guys that you went and got in free agency, Willie Snead, John Ross, and Krabs, and then you look at all of the receivers that you got in the draft, this is how I feel about Breshad Perriman.
Cut his ass.
Look, he got to catch the goddamn ball. And the first image we get of Breshad Perriman in 2018 is him dropping the damn football, going right through his buttery popcorn hands and into the waiting arms of a Bear defender for an interception after the Ravens got a gift on an interception. I'm done with him. And I'm pretty sure at this point, Ravens fans are probably done with him as well, as they should be. On the opposite side, Kevin White. How's this for irony? He doesn't start this game, but he plays. What does that say about Kevin White's spot on the food chain? Maybe I'm reading too much into this, and maybe his roster spot's not in jeopardy, but this is a new coaching staff. They have no allegiance to Kevin White. They could give two shits about Kevin White's first-round status. At this point, he's done nothing to deserve a roster spot. Who's to say he's not on the chopping block? This game started with Josh Bellamy and some other guy at wide receiver, and then 2 possessions later, here comes Kevin White. And he didn't even get a target. If I'm a coach and I want to instill some confidence in my former first-round wide receiver, I'm going to get him in the game early, and I'm going to get him some targets. They didn't even get him one. One. And he didn't start the game. I don't know what that says, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but both of those guys, to me, as former first-round picks, seem to be on the chopping block potentially this preseason. Things don't look that good for Kevin White. I can tell you that much right now. Terry McAuliffe, ex-NFL head official Terry McAuliffe, is on NBC. Hey, how about that? And I actually like Terry McAuliffe. Every network has their in-house referee to help sort through calls, and God knows NBC needs it because they were horrible last year, especially Chris Collinsworth. He was wrong about 90% of the time. So I think they finally saw that, especially it culminated in the Super Bowl where I think Chris Collinsworth might have been wrong. There might have been 4 challenges in the Super Bowl, and I think he might have been 0-4. He was bad last year, and it culminated in the Super Bowl where he was horrendous. And so they followed suit with Fox and CBS and getting a guy in there that knows the game, fresh out of the league. So McAuliffe knows a little something because he just was in the league a season ago. Speaking of which, it's going to be a very interesting year, to say the least, with all these new head officials because McAuliffe, one of the guys that retired, also, remember, Ed Hockley retired as well. So a number of those guys have moved on. Gene Steratore, if I'm not mistaken, also retired. So a number of these guys have moved on. Going to be interesting to see these new crop of officials. But nonetheless, good to see him then. And he got his first one right. And it was not an easy one. That looked like the football hit the ground. He said, look, they need to, that call should stand. There's nothing there that identifies this as a call you overturn. And he was right. So good to see NBC getting a guy that seems to be pretty good at identifying calls and what should be the call on the field. We got our first new look at the helmet contact rule. And I'm here to tell you, I don't like this shit. I don't like it at all. Some games are going to be decided and some outcomes are going to be altered because of this new rule. Look, it is so hard. It's already hard enough for defensive players to hit guys when catching a football because of, players. It's a natural human instinct to lower your head when you're going to make contact. Same thing when you're bracing for contact. So it makes it that much harder when you've got your helmet up. Yet a guy ducks, and all of a sudden it looks like you're leading with the crown of your helmet. That situation could get really messy. We saw 2 flags tonight for it. And the first one I thought was a really bang call, and I didn't really like it. The second one was a little bit easier, but then again, both of them you could have said the intent wasn't there. They're not judging for intent. They're just looking for a guy leading with the crown of his helmet. And I'm going to tell you, some games are going to be altered with that rule. I'm just here to tell you right now, don't kill me. I'm just a messenger. But that rule looks like it's going to cause some problems in 2018. We also got our first look at the no running start on kickoffs. That's not going to alter anything. It just looks weird to see guys just standing there without a running start, but it's not going to alter kickoffs whatsoever. You might not have even noticed tonight if they didn't mention it, and if I didn't mention it, you probably might not have noticed that, but that was the first look at the no running start on kickoffs. We go back to players now. Hayden Hurst, first-round pick for the Baltimore Ravens, one of 2 first-rounders. We'll get to their second first-rounder a little bit later on. He looks like he's going to be a damn good football player. I told you he was going to be. I told you the Ravens are better. Joe Flacco is better. Joe Flacco, my man. Joe. He's going to be back like cook crack this season because he's got 2 tight ends that he can get the football to. They got a bunch of other tight ends. To hell with those other guys. Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews are going to change the game for the Ravens this year, and you got a sneak peek at Hayden Hurst and what he brings to the table. Made that catch on the slant that didn't count. Man, was that gorgeous or what? That was tight coverage. outstretched arms away from the frame, plucked the football out of the air, showed the strong hands that he showed at South Carolina. He's going to be a damn good one. And then had a nice touchdown grab as well. So I think he's going to be essential to the success of the Ravens in 2018 because when Flacco has a reliable tight end, he is exceptional. And when he can stretch the field with a vertical threat, he's going to have plenty of them. Hell, I'll tell you right now, I'll switch out Jordan Lasley right now for Rashad Perriman. I'll swap him out right now. Right now. And Lasley had a nice catch in this game. I'll swap his ass out right now. No questions asked. Let's go to the Ravens quarterbacks. I thought Robert Griffin III actually looked pretty good. The one interception really wasn't his fault. That should have been caught. Obviously, we talked about that with Rashad Perriman already at the top of the show. I thought Robert Griffin looked good. Ball came out of his hands quickly. He got it to the right guys. I thought he moved well. He realizes he's got to get his ass out of bounds. I thought all in all, it was a good showing by Robert Griffin III. And I thought that him being on the roster was just a formality for him to get cut eventually. I'm not so sure that he's not the backup now. And I'm pretty positive that he's going to be the backup quarterback this season behind Joe Flacco. And it makes sense. If Lamar Jackson is the future of this franchise, then you're going to need a guy that can back him up. And why take a chance of cutting Robert Griffin III loose and having somebody else pick him up? Remember, once upon a time, the Chargers were hot on his trail and wanted to give him a look-see and kick the tires. If this guy plays well this preseason, he may get some looks from some other teams, especially teams that run a similar offense. If I'm the Ravens, you might have to roll with 3 quarterbacks this year. It's only for 1 year, but you might have to roll with 3 quarterbacks and allow Lamar Jackson to continue to develop. Speaking of which, it was a rough start for Lamar Jackson in his NFL debut. I thought he struggled mightily tonight. Did run the football well, but that's what we expect from him. What we're looking to see is the growth as a passer. It just wasn't there tonight. And look, that's what you expect. It was his first game. The speed of the game, everything, having to call plays in the huddle, all of these things are nuances that are brand new to Lamar Jackson. And the speed of the game and the athletes that he's playing against. This isn't the AAC, okay? This isn't the ACC, all right? This is the NFL. And so that pass that he threw that got picked off, he probably gets away with it at Louisville, okay? Probably gets away with it against Duke, against one of these lesser opponents that you can throw that pass and not have it picked off. This is the NFL. Even the backups to the backups are good enough to play at an elite level. He'll learn on those types of throws. Got to be a little bit more accurate. He just needs to be more accurate in general. That was always the knock on him. Thought he airmailed some passes tonight. Was inaccurate with the football for much of the night. 4 of 12 for 32, or 4 of 10 for 32 yards and an interception. Not the best debut for Lamar Jackson. He'll be fine. I'm not putting too much stock into this. It was his first start, and you expect young quarterbacks to struggle in this league initially, and Lamar Jackson is no different. That being said, how about Bears rookie wide receiver Javon Wims, a guy that I told you, I proclaimed would make this Bears roster. And I said, look, I know you got a bunch of receivers. I said, he's making your roster as a 7th-round pick. He started that claim to stake it tonight in this football game, almost going for 100 yards. He was outstanding, had a nice catch where he goes up, puts his nutsack on the defensive back's helmet, and snags the football down. He's a really underrated wide receiver, and I thought he was in this draft. And I thought the Bears got themselves a really good football player in the 7th round, and you're going to see that throughout this preseason. He's not going anywhere. He's going to make this roster, and so I think he started to make his case for that tonight, and it does not surprise me one bit. I also thought Tyler Bray didn't look half bad, and I don't think there's a competition for a backup quarterback in Chicago. I think that's firmly secured already by a guy that's been pretty much stealing money his entire career. What, man, it must be really nice to be an NFL career backup. I've seen guys make tons of money, and I'm not hating it. If you can do it, do it. The best thing that a backup quarterback can do is find a team with a quarterback that never gets hurt. Find an Eli Manning, find a Peyton Manning, where you can just sit down like Jim Sorgi did for all those years behind Peyton Manning and collect a check. Make millions of dollars to do nothing but be the scout team quarterback during the week. That's got to be awesome. And we've watched Chase Daniel start 2 games in his NFL career over what now? We're talking about a 10, 11-year career. He's had to amass over $30 million in his career. Easy. Had to amass $30 million in his career. And he started 2 games. He's probably going to be the backup. I'm telling you right now, Tyler Bray actually looked good tonight. And I don't think there's even a competition. That being said, that's the Hall of Fame game. Football is back. Celebrate. We back in the building. Feels good to see professional tackle football on the television set once again. So, hey, one last thing. NFL experimenting with new commercial breaks. They didn't even take a break during the 2-minute warning. That is so different. And Al Michaels made mention of it. And it was weird because they were taking breaks when they don't normally take breaks. And I said, huh. But it didn't really hit me until the 2-minute warning came. And they didn't go. Normally the 2-minute warning, that's the break where you can go to the bathroom. You can go make you a sandwich. Hell, if you need to go run to the store, go ahead and do that. The commercial break for the 2-minute warning is so goddamn long. They didn't even go on commercial for the 2-minute warning. Huh. That's different. But this is a different season. They're trying to make the NFL experience a more enjoyable one. We'll see. That felt good, though. No long-ass commercial break. You know, when you're in a close game and the 2-minute warning hits, all it does is give you more anxiety to wait for that commercial break to be over. You're thinking about all the things that could go wrong. You're thinking about all the things that could go right. But in any event, you're sweating bullets. Don't make me wait. They didn't make us wait tonight. We'll see how that goes. In any event, that's the Hall of Fame game. Ravens win 17-16. Matt Nagy making his head coaching debut. I like Matt Nagy. And I think he's going to do some things in Chicago. They're going to sneak up on some teams. I've already said that, though. They're going to sneak up on some teams this year. And the Ravens, they've got a lot more talent this year, and they're getting a lot of guys back from injury. Look out for the Baltimore Ravens this year. Look out for the AFC North in general. That division is going to be scary this year. We're going to have these divisional breakdowns here in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. But I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. It felt good to come back and be live, too. I haven't done that in a while. Got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. So you guys, stay tuned to the Louie T Network. Make sure you're checking out the podcast, Louie T Network Podcast. Again, if you haven't done so, what are you waiting on? Descriptions in, or the links are down in the descriptions below. So check out the podcast on whatever platform makes you the most comfortable. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I'm your man, Louie T. Signing off. Remember, we're changing the game one live video at a time. I will see you guys next time.
Cut his ass.